Hey guys, welcome to Tell It to Trevor. I'm your host, Trevor Shelley, and today on my podcast I have.
Trent Mercer.
Oh, what sparked your interest in the professional wrestling?
It mostly started when I was around 5 years old. I was watching with my grandfather, and then he sat me down one
How
night, and
is it?
then next,
But what were you saying?
no, you're good. But I was 5 years old. I started watching with my grandfather, and then next thing I know, I'm doing swantons and elbow drops on off the couch and on all my family members.
Who were your wrestling mentors growing up?
So when you say mentors, are we talking about like as a kid who I idolized, or are we talking about once I got into the
Yeah.
business who I idolized?
Um. Yeah, idolize.
So I would say probably the biggest one is Jeff Hardy. There was something
Okay.
about the paint and just all the charisma that he had. He was just very open, and he just threw caution to the wind. So I would say it would probably be the Hardy Boys, and then probably probably Triple H and Shawn Michaels, just because the way that they wrestled, there was so much storytelling to it. It's like as a kid, you wouldn't think you would
Yeah.
understand the storytelling, but it's sort of like you're watching that superhero, supervillain story, especially around the time when they started going back and forth.
Yeah. How did you get into the wrestling world?
So
Like,
I always knew I wanted to be a pro wrestler, um, and I didn't know where I would start. The only place that I knew of was Booker T's school in Houston, but his
okay.
school is 2 hours from where I'm at. And so I did my research, and for the longest, I was doing wrestling in high school. So up until my sophomore year, I was wrestling in high school just so at least I knew I had a base. And then
Yeah.
as soon as COVID hit, I I didn't want to do wrestling anymore because it had taken such a toll on me with I didn't have the best coaches because, I wasn't healthy, I wasn't eating right, and they weren't teaching me how to properly like lift weights and everything to stay physically fit. And as soon
Yeah.
as COVID hit, I was like, all right, maybe it's time I make the jump. Maybe it's time I actually get into pro wrestling like I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, Booker T's place was 2 hours away, and it's all the way in Houston from where I'm at. And the pricing was just out of my budget, so I didn't have a way to officially pay for it, and I didn't have a proper functional way to get there. So I kept
Yeah.
looking, and I found Lions Pride, which is ran by Houston Carson here in town, and they
Okay.
had just what was that?
I said okay.
Yeah, so they were just in the process of transitioning to having their own facility because they were training out of Bryan Boxing, and they were renting a small corner in Bryan Boxing. Well, when I joined, Houston was renovating the facility that we had. And so I went, I did my tour, and Houston was like, you got a good look to you, and you look really athletic. And I told him about my background and what I did in high school, and he was like, yeah, you would fit perfect here. And I was 17 at the time, and my mom, she didn't know, she was on the fence about it. And I told her, I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm willing to sacrifice and put everything that I want to do into this. And so she was like, all right. I wasn't 18 yet, but she was like, "This will be your present for your 17th birthday." She was like, "I'm gonna sign this, and the rest is up to you." So she signed the papers. I had been working at Whataburger at the time, so I was making my paying my dues and just investing everything that I had into wrestling, and I've been doing it for about 4 years now.
What was it like wrestling your first match?
It so for me, I'm a very shy person. It took me forever to officially open up, and right before I walked through the curtain, I was like, "All right, this is it. This is it. This is the time." And it's just I was so nervous and I could just feel the butterflies in my stomach just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then as soon as the music hit and I walked through the curtain, it's like everything just went away. It's like I heard the music sort of went silent. All I could hear is the crowd, and it felt like time slowed down in a way to where I soaked everything in. I was like, whoa, this is it. This is what I've been working to.
Yeah.
This is the first step. And so I had my official first match as a singles competitor was a little while later, but I was in a battle royal and I was like, I don't care who else is in this match. I was like, all this attention, all of this energy from the crowd is all just channeling into me. I was like, this is insane. This is a dream.
Yeah. What are your goals for the future in wrestling?
Um, well, for me, it's right now. It's one to get better because I'm currently healing from an injury. I broke my collarbone about 3 weeks ago, but after I get healthy, I want to travel more. I want to get me and my tag partner, Chris Chaos, where we call ourselves Obsidian. I want us to become one of the best tag teams in Texas, and eventually, the goal is to one day be good enough that okay, we can go wrestle in the UK or in Japan. Everybody wants to
Yeah.
wrestle for AEW or WWE. Well, me, I wanna go the different path. I wanna go the path less traveled. I want the
Hmm.
roughest path, the one that'll challenge me the most. So I feel wrestling in the UK and in Japan, those two, that specific style that they have in Japan and in the UK, it's it's rough. It's tough. It's probably the hardest hitting wrestling that you'll find out there, and I don't think a whole lot of people look at it that way. And so I want to go there. I want to find myself. I want to push myself to the best possible point. The Put myself at peak performance, and then one day if I get the opportunity to wrestle for the WWE or any other big promotion here in the states.
All right, so we're gonna start this music session. People, this is my song called "Music Is My Solstice." Bad grammar, but here it is. Back to these questions. Can you describe your wrestling persona or character?
Um, so like I said, I'm 4 years in. Well, 3 years actually, like wrestling on shows. I'm 4 years, including my training. But like I said, I feel like I haven't really found myself yet. Those first actual 5 years of wrestling on shows. You have everybody who they sort of know who they are, but not entirely. And then there's some people who off the back know who they are. And I
Yeah.
call myself by Trent Mercer. We started out as the watchdog because I was always wanting to protect everybody from, let's say, protect everybody from the bad guy, from the heels. And I guess that has to do with a lot of my background and what I went through as a kid. But, eventually we evolved into the True Alpha. We tried the True Alpha at one point, and it didn't really work out as the way I planned. So for the longest, I've just gone by Trent Mercer. And then before I was with Obsidian, um, I was with one of my good friends, Hostage Hirsch. We were Onslaught, and I think one thing I'll forever be thankful for is I sort of found part of who I am in Onslaught. It helped me become a better heel, and I found the persona of the King Beast. And it sort of ties in from, like I said, Jeff Hardy was my idol because the paint really just stood out. I was like, whoa, this is cool. He's just like a normal guy, just paint on. And it stood
Yeah,
out in a way that it always caught my attention. And then around, I would say 2014, 2015, when NXT really started to kick off and you had guys like Finn Balor come in. Finn Balor brought the Demon King in, and I was like, whoa, this is intense. This is something
yeah,
completely different from what Jeff Hardy had. And so I've sort of found my version of the Demon King where we did the King Beast, where it's sort of like a demonic uh, wolf in a sense. And, I have that side where every now and then I'll use it. And then after Onslaught really, sort of all went our opposite directions. Me and Chris Chaos, we did Obsidian, and Hostage Church went off to do his own thing. I'm really trying to just find out who I am without the paint. And right now we just have Trent Mercer, but with the injury currently right now and being sidelined up until about probably March or April, it's really given me that time to dig into my thoughts and really find who I am. You know what I mean? It's a good because I've been going about 4 years, weightlifting and actually training. And my mother, she made a great point that maybe this is a sign that you just need to take a break. Maybe you can find out who you really are, and your body, you'll be 100% going back into it, and you'll have all these fresh ideas. And in a sense, it was a sign to take a breather and not get completely burned out.
yeah.
So um right now we're just trying to find out who Trent Mercer really is.
Can you describe a memorable moment from your wrestling career?
Memorable moment, I'd have to say it was the most recent one. I wrestled Matthew Palmer a few weeks before I got hurt, and I think some of his advice is what really helped me. He told me, he was like, "You're really good. You have the footwork all there. You're really athletic. You have it all. It's just, I would say, open and engage the crowd more. Um, and then, just you need to evolve your arsenal and like find different things that you do really well and always have those on hand." And so I would say wrestling Matthew Palmer was one of the biggest uh, moments in my career.
Can you describe the feeling of winning your first championship?
Yes, I can actually. So when I debuted in an inaugural championship tournament at Lions Pride. So we have the Lions Pride Sports title, which is the main title, like the World Heavyweight and the WWE title. It's our main title, and anybody can challenge for that one. Well, the we also have the Lions Den Championship, which is a student only title. It's only for people who have gone through the Lions Den training facility system, and only they are allowed to challenge for it. So I debuted in that tournament to as the underdog. I was fed to one of my mentors, Matthias, who eventually became the first ever Lions Den championship or champion. And I lost to him, and then, time went on, I got better at wrestling, and I had another shot. Well, I lost that, championship as well, and then, I just kept going on, and eventually, you know, I really things really started to click for me, I really started to find a little bit of myself here and there, and I was able to build a decent arsenal to where I could keep myself going, and then about, let's say, what year was it? Here to Stay 5? Yeah, Here Stay 5. I got another opportunity against a wrestler named Shimbashi, and we had a 2 out of 3 falls match, and I had all my family there, and it I don't know, in a way it came full circle because as soon as I won the title and I raised it above my head, it it sort of felt like I had all, not the adults looking at me in the crowd, but I had all the kids, looking up because I had tried to give everybody this roller coaster of emotions to where, in a sense, they sort of look up to me the way I looked up to wrestlers in the WWE. And so it sort of hit that full circle moment. And then what was crazy about it was the storytelling was so it was so perfect. My old tag partner, Hostage Hurst, because before I had won that title, he was gone for the longest because he needed a break to find himself. And then when he came back that same night, he ambushed me and he hit me in the back in the back with a shovel. So as soon as I won the title, it was so intense, and it was so much fun to have the crowd on their feet in, happiness, and then all of a sudden, we were able to just bring them right back down to earth with that shock of betrayal. 2 brothers who fought in the trenches, and then one of them ruins the biggest moment of his career. And so I would say that moment was really, really emotional, and it was so much fun to give to the crowd.
What's How do you handle the emotional and mental aspect of wrestling?
Um, in a way, you have to everybody. I think it does do some people justice to take a moment and sit back. Um, for me, it helped me get out of a dark place in my life at one point when I was 8 years old. Wrestling was my way of escaping reality, and we all have our battles. Whether it's body dysmorphia, whether it's depression, or it's just, am I good enough? Well, do I have what it takes? And I think my family and my brothers and sisters that I've come to have in my life from training, I think they're my biggest support system, and
Yeah.
I will forever be grateful for all my brothers and sisters and my family.
If you have a tattoo, which one is your favorite?
I don't have any tattoos right now, but at some point I do. I will say at some point what I want to do is I want to start my family tree on my right arm.
Ugh. Let's So I do this thing called Trev Shock. So it's basically like Stone Cold's pop question that he does on his show,
Hmm.
or like when you do meetings and they want to switch it up, they add a certain amount of time you have to answer these questions.
Okay.
So this one, you got like 50 seconds to answer these questions. They are pretty simple. First question: what is your pre-show snack?
My pre-show snack. Usually I don't try and eat a whole lot just because I don't want to have anything heavy on my stomach, but I would say usually, I'm eating like Sour Patch Kids or some kind of like candy just so I can get sugar in my blood pumping, and I'm having my veins are very popping, and then all my muscles are just soaking it all up, and I look pretty big on stage.
What is your pre-show number one song that you listen to?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would have to say "Bring Me the Horizon's Throne." It just it just gets me pumped up, and it's got that like mentality of like go out there and make them know who you are.
Who is your favorite wrestler growing up?
Growing up, if we're going old school, Jeff Hardy. If we're going more modern and up to like this day, I would probably say Finn Balor.
Favorite sports team?
Houston Texans.
Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite color?
Black.
Black. Favorite type of music?
I would say my brother Chris Chaos would probably say new metal.
New metal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that was Trev Show.
Sweet.
Um, reason I still do Trev Shock. So I did my first season, and a lot of people I interviewed, they're like, "Oh, we love the little switch to it. Like you throw your own questions, and they're not wrestling related."
Mm-hmm.
So my one question I was asked was because I had a sponsor deal with the Looney Tunes video game on phone
Mm-hmm.
was who is your favorite Looney Tunes character? So I had somebody and they said Bugs Bunny, not Bugs Bunny, Tom and Jerry, and I'm like, it's the same family, just not the same show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, back to these questions.
Sweet.
What are the biggest challenges of being a professional wrestler outside the ring?
I think the biggest challenge is maybe diet. I have to say diet because for me, I do have a sweet tooth. I was always, I'll say it. I was a fat kid. I'm a fat kid at heart, and over time, it took me a while to really get that disciplined mindset. But I have great personal training coaches. I have a phenomenal wrestling coach, and all three of them, uh, all three of my coaches really, they're always hard on me, and they always help me find a way to satisfy the craving that I have with a healthier option. And so I would say dieting is one of the biggest things, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also one of the most disciplinary things you have to stay on top of.
How do you feel about the wrestling business side of wrestling and the role of promotions and shaping storylines?
Okay, say that one more time.
How do you feel about the business side of wrestling and the role of promotions in shaping the storylines?
Shaping storylines. You know, you do have you have some promotions that don't like doing storylines. It's mostly just
Yeah,
like lucha promotions. Me, I I've always loved the storytelling. I think it's one of the biggest and the oldest form of wrestling that we have, and it never fails.
yeah,
And if you watch like NXT, Raw, or SmackDown, eventually you get to a point where you've seen all the stories, but since there's so many generations that have passed, they take the old stories that we've had the original stories we've had, and we build on top of those into a more modern style, and some of them get more intense, and some of them have evolved in a way that you would think, "Oh, we've never seen this storyline before," but you actually have. We
yeah.
you see it so many times, especially with like tag team. Tag team wrestling is my favorite thing. So I've always loved seeing, all right, we have this tag team that's building. Just two random guys put together and they become brothers. And eventually, one of them has to turn on the other. We all know this. One of them has to turn, or otherwise, they're both going to turn either from face to heel. But the story that always gets me is the betrayal of one. One of them betrays the other, and it's as deep as you really think it is. Like, you can bring family into it to where you can have, let's say, I did this storyline with my old tag partner. We did he kidnapped my girlfriend, and it brought out a darker side of me. It brought out a more intense side of me, and we ended up having a casket match. Well, you can easily take it where you either kidnap the girlfriend or the wife, or even like Triple H and Randy Orton did at one point. They invaded Randy's house. I think the
Yeah.
storytelling is just the biggest part, and you don't have to do so many wrestling spots to like get over it. It's about the emotion. It's about having the crowd invested, where you have this roller coaster. Whether you can have, the baby face is getting beat, and then he slowly starts winning, and then he starts descending or ascending, and then you have that heel who does that one has that one moment, he capitalizes, and it plummets back to the ground. And I think that roller coaster is the biggest tool in pro wrestling.
Yeah. It's like for me the Undisputed Era, well, Undisputed Kingdom on AEW. That's like a storyline, especially with that faction, really
Mm-hmm.
clicks with me a whole lot and such because all those guys they all used to team together
Mm-hmm.
back in Ring of Honor, NXT, New
Yep.
Japan,
And if
and
you have,
then AEW brought it all
yep.
back together and brought in
Mm-hmm.
Warlow into it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because you can go all over the world with a small group, and you can
Mm-hmm.
have that group known all over the world, and then in different ways, y'all all know each other. So y'all know what y'all are thinking. You all
Yeah,
know what y'all do in the ring. So you can take that story anywhere. You can be like, oh, they were a tag team here in this company. They were a tag team here in this company, and now they're at this company, and then one of them turns the back on the other, or they get back together, and there's so much emotion into it. It's like you can either A, have the crowd on their feet, like, oh my God, they're back together, this is going to be incredible, or you can have them in shock and awe, where they're so shocked by one person betraying the rest of the group, or them turning on the other person, and it's just a
yeah.
great story to use.
If you could wrestle any legend wrestler from the past, who would it be and why?
Um, that's a good question. I'd probably have to say The Undertaker, because when you hear about how long he's been in the business,
Yeah,
there's so much right there that you kind of want to like sit down and just talk to him and pick his brain and figure out all these little details and find the different ways that he started piecing his character together. And I think he's one of, if not the biggest icon in wrestling. There's just so much to him that, there's probably things we don't even know of that he keeps to himself, but few people know because he's actually sat down and talked with them. So I think
yeah.
if I had one chance to wrestle a legend and pick their brain, it would be the Undertaker for sure.
If you could attend a wrestling training session with any wrestler, who would it be?
Probably, I'd probably say maybe Finn Balor, because he has that style that I find very interesting. It's not a whole lot of high flying. It's not very powerful. It's very technical, and it's very hard hitting. He's not the
Mhm.
biggest guy in the fight, but he knows how to bring the intensity. He knows how to sometimes throw caution to the wind, and
Yeah.
to be able to sit down and learn about, his time in Ireland and his time in Japan. I feel like that would you would learn so much in just one training session with him.
Yeah. If you could have a wrestling legend as your mentor, who would you choose?
Um, Probably Triple H. Um, when you go, because for the longest I was so in when we were trying to figure out how to evolve Lions Pride, where I'm at. My coach and I really like we're sort of close, and he would ask me like, "What do you think we should do sometimes?" And I would bounce ideas off him. I'd be like, "This would be cool, and this would be cool," but the ball would always be in his court, and I would sort of get a sense of what it's like to book a promotion by listening to him and
Yeah.
learning all that from him, and then I would look at the way Triple H runs NXT. We see all these behind the scene footages of how he walks through every single superstar, and he walks through every entrance with said superstar. And I remember there was a clip where he was giving advice to someone on NXT. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Finn Balor. I'm not gonna lie. He was like, "Don't open up and look directly at the camera. Look past them and look
Yeah.
at the crowd. Pretend you're not. Pretend you're seeing through the camera." And I look at that as like that is sports entertainment. That's it's sort of making it like a real life movie. And I would say there's so much that just like the Undertaker, he has so much knowledge of how to work a camera in the crowd and really make your entrances and everything you do on camera look like cinema.
All right. So on WWE 2K, I have a universe mode. It's called the Shockverse, where it's all these indie wrestlers all under one promotion.
Hmm.
If you had to put yourself in the division, which division would you put yourself in? We got the World, Tag, Mid Card, or Cruiserweight.
That's a tough one because I love the cruiserweight division, and that we have some promotions here
Yeah.
in Texas that have a cruiserweight division. And then I also love tag team wrestling because I love of having that brotherhood and y'all being in sync and able to have more bodies to sort of play chess with, if you think about it. Because when you're doing
Yeah.
wrestling, you have all these different parts that you can play with, and it's sort of like chess. You have to be smart with them. And so, if depending on you know what really felt good, it would probably say the probably say the cruiserweight division, just because it's probably where I would feel more at home. But if it wasn't the cruiserweight division, I'd have to say tag team division.
What's your opinion on the wrestling crossover events with sports and entertainment industries?
Um, I can't really go into much detail about it because I've never worked for a big promotion like that. And
Yeah.
but from I've watched, I would say it benefits some companies. Like I think the partnership between TNA and WWE is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because you have people like Jordan Grace, you have people like the Rascals, you have all these superstars that everybody's wanting to see in TNA in the WWE, and it's sort of like,
Yeah.
all right, cool, let's do a trial run. They brought Jordan Grace in for a few spots here and there, and the crowd loved her. So that even shows you that Jordan Grace, wherever she goes, the crowd will love her. So if she wanted to, if she felt like her time was up at TNA, the WWE could easily be the next step for her.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's that's uh sh- how crossover promotions should work. It should be a, sort of like trial runs to see if will this wrestler work out here or not.
I remember meeting her at WrestleCade this year, and I was just passing by, walking past her. I was like, "Oh crap, it's Jordan Grace. Let me just say hi to her, just to be polite and introduce myself for my podcast."
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, I was like, "What's your booking rate?" Just for curiosity, if I've had to book you on my podcast. And she was like, "I don't even know. You got to talk to TNA about that." And I was like, "Look, TNA said I can interview you. I would happily do that. I don't care the fee,
Mm-hmm.
because that person that's been in basically around the world wrestling, bringing that knowledge."
Yeah, I think one thing I wish I could do is go back and join Lions Pride sooner because she's wrestled I think like once, maybe once or twice for a Lions Pride show. Because I think her and my coach at some point crossed paths and they just knew each other for a short time. Um, just seeing her journey, it's incredible, and seeing her physique transformation is really cool too. I think that was one thing
Yeah,
I would be interested in is asking her about dieting tips and how she works out and like different tips on to get in the best shape possible for this company.
yeah. What advice would you give an inspiring wrestler?
Uh, if a kid walked up to me, asked me what advice I could give them, I would say invest in yourself and whatever you
Mm-hmm.
do, give your all, give your heart, give your soul, give everything you've got to this company, and this company will be kind to you.
What was your favorite gear that you have ever got made?
So for the longest, I did tactical pants and an Under Armour shirt. And then we moved to when I joined Onslaught. The second time we tried to getting Onslaught up and going, it was black pants, and at some point I invested in about $200 to $300 for my first set of gear, and I would say it's it's probably my best gear yet. It's because it's black and it's each leg is like a sort of a different material. So like one's like a shiny black material, and the other's sort of like matte material. And then we got the wolf claw marks on the side, and then we have the um the red sun with the Japanese symbol for wolf in it. And I would say that is my favorite gear that I've ever had as my first set.
Where can they find you on social media?
So Instagram, you can find me at watchdog_Mercer. Facebook, just look up Trent Mercer. Um, I would say my Twitter. I think my Twitter is the same as my Instagram, watchdog_Mercer, as well.
All right, and then thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And then, guys, I'm going to say this every episode until the season is over. For season 3, we are doing a t-shirt contest. I had someone designed 5 different logos, and there will be a link on the Instagram and YouTube where you can go fill out to be in it. So then it's a really cool design. I had professionals design me 5 different ones, because the original idea was, oh, I'm going to change it up. It's our 1 year anniversary going to be happening on. So I was like, let's change it up. Why not? And basically that. All right.